Well, I am a huge fan of the fantasy genre, and the movie Willow is a classic in my estimation. So, does the new Willow TV series on Disney Plus, at least based on the first two episodes, revive a dormant IP that fans of the original will connect with, or at least that this fan will connect with, or is Disney gonna Disney? Well, stick around and I will share my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of the series premiere for Willow on Disney Plus, episodes 1 and 2. The synopsis, I forgot to copy and paste the synopsis from IMDb. Basically, a bunch of years, decades have passed since the events of the first movie, and Elora Danan, the prophesied kind of savior of the realm, has been kept hidden, and actually her own identity kept from herself, because Willow, shortly after the events of the movie, evidently had a dream of a prophecy of a new rising evil that was gonna try and kill her again or something like that, and so best to keep her hidden. And so this story is about basically the children of Mad Mardigan and the Sorsha, and Elora Danan, as she is revealed. I won't spoil who she is, who she turns out to be, but it's basically that generation and them kind of like needing eventually to connect with Willow, which took a little longer than I thought it should have in the first episode, to get Elora Danan ready for this rising threat, which is really kind of undefined, although there is kind of like some monster attacks and stuff like that. So anyway, it's really focused on this younger generation and Elora Danan. And let me just talk a little bit about the general vibe of this thing, the script, the pacing, the tone in general. This is probably where I'll spend the bulk of my talking. But the first episode, I was like, where's Willow? Where's Willow? We don't see him until almost the very end of the episode. I mean, not literally. We see him in brief, like, flashback type stuff. But I'm like, where's Willow? The show is named after him. Where's Willow? Instead, when you watch Willow, it's about saving the realm. It's about this big bad evil that can only be stopped by one person. You get a sense of the threat because people are dying, people are threatened, there's a village that's attacked. Right from the beginning, there's this sense of threat, and it all centers on this one particular person that needs to be preserved so that the whole realm can be saved. And a lot of this first episode is not about saving the realm, and it's more about exploring coming-of-age, quote-unquote, romances. I say quote-unquote because it's very shallow. It's very kind of on that CW shallow level of romance that is really just about, I don't know, very surfacey sexual kind of stuff, or sexually driven type stuff. I mean, not literally characters having sex, but I think you hopefully get what I'm driving at there. It's not about people so much as just these really strong kind of surfacey feelings that tend to be common among teenagers. So anyway, there's also anachronistic dialogue and humor sensibilities that would fit perfectly in a Marvel movie, but don't match the style of humor even in the original movie. Now there were things about the original movie that I'm like, even as a kid, I didn't like the brownies. I just found them kind of like, I just tolerated them. I didn't actually find them funny or endearing or cute, but I mean, there was humor in the original movie, and so I'm not expecting this to be without humor, but this style of humor is very different in this show, and it's much more like what we've come to expect from Disney's handling of Marvel and Star Wars in their streaming shows and stuff, with Andor probably being the exception, and maybe some of Mandalorian. But it's these side remarks. The humor is these side remarks of characters that in those moments are emotionally disconnecting them from the current threat or tension, making some kind of sarcastic remark or whatever, which mostly serves to disconnect me from any sense of threat or tension. It's a style of humor that steps outside of the genre and makes fun of it a bit, telling me as an audience member that, if you think about it, this is kind of ridiculous, But instead, I want them to flesh out the world and the rationality of it and its characters so that I have more reason to invest in it, to take the threats seriously and what the characters are feeling, to take those things seriously, to imagine it on some level as real or at least relatable to me in some way. Instead, they disconnect me from the experience so much that I have no invested desire to continue it. The focus is also largely shifted away from Willow to, as I said, descendants or grown-up versions of the supporting characters of the movie. The center of the movie was Willow. It was named after him. It was an ensemble cast, sure, but the center of it was all rotating around Willow and his journey, both literally and figuratively. He's traveling across the land, and he's also going through some character development himself, coming into his own, his development from this insecure, underestimated person and aspiring sorcerer to becoming ultimately this brave hero who steps into the moment even though he's woefully outmatched. The dramatic focus here, I feel like, is scattered, it's unfocused, and interrupted by joking. I really would have preferred a continued focus on Willow, and I realize that's asking a lot from my expectations of, Disney or the CW or whatever. They're not going to focus on those older generations. I didn't even think, Willow, when that movie was made, Warwick Davis, who played Willow, was very young. I think he was still in his teens, but he was being depicted as a family man, an established family man with a wife and 2 kids. And I feel like, it's wouldn't be too much to ask to have that. Okay, let's find that a 20-something who's already started a family, but instead, no, it's not about that stage of life, or what in age or in terms of like what's true of that stage of life. It's not about a family man. It's about these young teen 20-somethings with their romantic inclinations and feelings and stuff. It feels largely above and beyond those elements, created by this list of mandates and boxes to check that are common to so many Disney Plus, Marvel, and Star Wars shows already. There's a focus that's prioritizing young and attractive protagonists to the point where, like, it's not even being true to what characters are saying. There's a moment where Sorsha says to her son, "Why do you look like you've been rolling around in the grass?" I'm like, what? There's not a blade of grass on him. Maybe he just rolled off of a runway at a fashion show, but he does not look at all like he was rolling around in the grass. What? So it's just that type of design, production design, that is prioritizing things that are ultimately not about really engaging you in the world. There's some other value that they're holding to that takes precedence over really telling the story in an innovative, engaging way. It's anachronistic and it's self-mocking humor. Again, this is, I'm just listing some things that are common to lots of Disney Plus shows, and I think there's some overlap with CW, type content as well. Anachronistic, self-mocking humor that keeps tension and stakes from truly being felt. Shallow, as I said, quote-unquote, romantic relationships, including in the first episode briefly exploring a gay relationship, that even these elements take place of character development. Whether it's a heterosexual or homosexual relationship, that's kind of beside the point. The point is that this type of storytelling that's common to Disney and the CW has relationships, romantic quote-unquote relationships, taking the place of character development, or being kind of the core of the character development, serving as primary character arcs, reinforcing, I think, when they do that, this broken thinking of today that we are identified, defined, and fulfilled by some combination of our gender, sexuality, and/or romantic relationships. Also, it's very straightforward and has a storytelling style that I find merely functional, that really doesn't lack, it really lacks style and a sense of innovation. The performances, were just uninteresting to me. They lacked the subtext I really like to see in my storytelling, or really what seemed like, the freedom to tell the story purely with acting and without dialogue. Just like some extended moments of silence where just through performances I can get a sense of how characters are feeling, instead of them just kind of blabbing about what they're feeling or, whatever. It's a lot of telling and not showing. I really want them to engage me by showing me in the cinematic style, in the actors' performances, all that kind of stuff. Engage me on that level instead of just kind of like talking all the time and doing it all through that. In short, I feel like it's Disney doing this very safe, cookie-cutter thing they've been doing by default for years now, especially in their streaming shows. And it feels totally wrong for Willow, and makes me wonder, who in the world is this show for? Willow is not Star Wars. It's not this super known quantity among the younger generation of high schoolers and 20-somethings of today. Is it? I mean, I don't think it is. I don't think near as many parents have faithfully passed on a love of Willow like they have a love of Star Wars, and prioritize making sure that their kids saw Willow. Certainly some of us did. But I don't feel like it's not in that category. And so it's best known, I think, I could be wrong, somebody can show me some statistics if you can find them somewhere, but I think it's best known by far among those who watched it when they were younger. And by newer audience, it's probably an unknown thing. Like, this is based on a movie? Oh, maybe I should watch that movie first. I mean, I don't know. But this show doesn't seem made for the people that watched it when they were younger, who would now be in the range of their 30s through 50s and older. It doesn't seem made for that crowd at all. It does not seem like a continuation of the movie, but instead some new thing that's like in a very forced way wearing a few tattered pieces of the original movie as costume bits and props. Weird, very weird. I mean, like, within the first 10 minutes of the first episode, I laughed out loud because I was like, they cannot help themselves. Disney just cannot help themselves. And they are locked into this certain mode that just seems to lack innovation and creativity as true values in favor of a safe churn out of things they think will make money. And that's really what this feels like to me. I'm sure that there were a lot of creative people involved in this. I'm not saying that the director, the writer, the actors were not bringing their all and really trying to be creative. What I'm saying is, what it really seems like to me is they're doing all those things within the constraints of some values that are above them, on the producer level, on the money suits level, on some kind of mandate. I don't know what kind of level, but there seems to be these constraints like, okay, yeah, absolutely, go nuts and be creative. And we've heard over the years how constrained directors of Marvel movies were. And you can see that because so many of them feel and look the same, out of a desire, I think, at the time to make them all feel like they are work in the same world and kind of work together. And so, I can understand going with that and having some mandates and having, striving for them to feel the same. I don't think that's necessary, but I can understand them deciding to take that approach and like, okay, sure, give that a shot and see how it works, because it does have some benefits. But there's no reason to do that with Willow. Willow isn't part of the MCU. It's not part of Star Wars or some larger universe. They would have the freedom here. So this seems like something else, some other constraints. And of course, I think that there's some Christian folks and, that are more tuned into politics and social agendas and stuff like that are maybe really going to be tuned in and reacting, especially to the LGBTQ, elements in this. But I'm not even really primarily thinking about that. That's just one box that is being checked here of many that make it feel like this cookie cutter thing. Yeah, what an interesting place that Disney is in. It's going to be interesting to see if this works for them ultimately. I don't know what their numbers are, if people are not getting the subscription service as often, if they're losing audience members. I don't know. I don't know if this is working for them or not. Certainly not working for Peter Franson. Okay, let me move on and just talk about a few other elements briefly. As far as the cast and the performances go, I think that Warwick Davis, who plays Willow, may not be a strong enough actor to really be the true center of this. I wish that weren't the case. I've seen him in, I've seen him in, they did a mockumentary series that was supposedly like about his life and stuff like that as an actor. I think it was on HBO, and I watched maybe a full season of that, and I found it engaging and interesting. And I thought he worked in, in the original Willow movie. His performance wasn't really quite connecting with me here. I think he's probably capable, though. My guess is that they were just on too much of a schedule to really give the time to the scenes that he was in to really get the best performance from him, But I mean, I still wish, even with what felt like some shortcomings there, I still wish he was more central to the series that is named after him. Especially since so much of that movie is about investing in him and his journey as a character and his development as a character. I know that, even if they're going to focus on another character, they still have to call it Willow from a marketing standpoint so that people immediately understand this is a continuation of the Willow movie. So they're between a rock and a hard place, They really can't win. But even so, I wish that it was really more truly focused on Willow and his journey. It just doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. This is not a show that relies on performances. I don't think these actors, they all do a solid job delivering their lines as the characters they are supposed to be. But there's nothing engaging to me about any of the performances here. As far as the visuals go, there's some decent creature makeup and costumes in one of the attack scenes in the first episode. It's like, oh yeah, these are some dark sword and sorcery style monsters that have this really undead, twisted quality to them that I like. But those scenes are still presented in this brightly lit, even when it's supposed to be nighttime, brightly lit, low contrast visuals throughout. And especially during daytime, it's like, man, look for the shadows. See if you can show me a shadow somewhere. Everything is so well lit from all directions. It has a clean look that even actually as a result feels a little bit cheap and kind of network TV-like in a way that I can't describe, rather than being cinematic, and having like this artistic vision for visual storytelling. It doesn't seem like that's really a priority here. It's just very standard storytelling, making sure everything's nice and clean and brightly lit so we can see everything and know what's going on. Like, check, all right, we've done that, let's move on, As far as the music, I don't always comment on the music in my reviews, but it feels a little melodramatic at times. There's also one or two moments where it was giving away moments before they happened, and I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen in 3 seconds, 2, 1, yes, that is exactly, because the music is giving it away as it leads up to it. And then there's also some awkward use of the original theme. Bum 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 ba-dum, bum bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum ba. They'll use that a couple times maybe in a minor way or a sad way, as if to say, remember this theme, remember the old movie that you liked. I'm like, yes, I remember. And this feels very forced in the score at this moment. So, and then maybe the weirdest thing wasn't actually taking place during the story, but at the end of both of the first 2 episodes, where at the very end it transitions to this pop style music for the credits that does not feel so weird and so out of place. And the first credits music that was played at the end of the first episode was probably called Guess Who's Back, because that was the kind of a refrain in the chorus. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? And I'm like, and it was supposed to be like, this is, remember, this is the return of these characters. And so it was supposed to be referencing that in some way, that now these characters are back, and I'm like, really? I don't know who's back. I don't really recognize this show, this place. I don't recognize any of this. I don't know who's back. Okay, as far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? I always like to try to look for those things, ask myself those questions as I'm taking in content. I don't know, guys. Maybe some there's power within yourself stuff, kind of stuff going on, discovering who you are, coming of age, probably some LGBTQ stuff, that'll be explored and touched on more later. It was just briefly touched on in the first episode and not in the second that I recall. I don't know. But at every turn, regardless of what themes they may or may not be playing with, at every turn it seems like they don't want me to take this seriously. And even the potential inclusion of themes doesn't feel heartfelt so much as tropey or required by some executive mandate or controlling mission statement regarding what Disney shows are supposed to be. So I don't think there's anything worth thinking about here, and I can't wait to stop thinking about this show. Which is really sad because I love fantasy, and there's so little of it without sexy naked people in streaming shows. I really or taken seriously and for adults. There's Wheel of Time, and there's I think probably all the Amazon Prime Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings show. I'll probably get back into that. Maybe I'll be able to, I don't know, I'll think about The Witcher. I keep thinking about that, coming back to it briefly. I'm not sure if it's going to be for me or not, but there's just not near as much as there is sci-fi or even superhero stuff these days. And so I'm always starving for it and wanting more of it and willing to lower the bar to get it, but I can't do it. I can't do it. So I don't know what your tastes are in TV shows, but if I were time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, skip, man. Just watch Willow again sometime. It's a good movie, you know. Yeah, just skip this one. This one's rated TV-14 for, I don't know, violence, a gay kiss. TV-14 for the heck of it, because that's what MCU and Star Wars things are rated. I have no idea. But those are all of my thoughts for now on the season premiere for Willow on Disney+. As always, I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/Spirit Productions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.